What is up, nerds? Welcome back to episode 46 of the Pickleball Pursuit podcast. I'm your host, Lewis, with Pickleball Pursuit. Here with my co-host, Justin, my pickleball wife, the king of the nerds, the oracle himself, Justin from Pickleball, etc. How you been, man? What's going on?
No, I've been good, dude.
You been riding some bikes?
Yep. I was gone for the last week. That's why we had to skip last week's podcast. Went to Bentonville again, the mountain bike capital of the world. And that place is just so good. So just riding bikes every day for a week and just got back yesterday.
Are you still 3.5 at riding mountain bikes?
Ooh, I don't know. It'd be hard to rate myself. I don't know. Look, I can do blacks, like the trails are like green, blues, blacks, I can do blacks. So maybe I'm like a 4.0 at biking. I don't know.
All right. I didn't know you were chill like that, bro. That's pretty tight.
Yeah. But hey, man, ready to switch gears though, because we got the tournament coming up this weekend and we got some stuff lined up, I'm drilling today, playing a solid game tomorrow, then headed down to see my pickleball boo in just a couple days, and then we're going to get some good practice in, boys. And
be jealous.
Maybe some drilling. And yeah, that'll be cool. And got a mixed partner. Shout out. Thanks, Lewis, for setting that up. I don't know if she wants me to say her name, but I'll leave it. But
we'll figure it out. I'm sure she won't care. But anyway, well, we got a lot of stuff to talk about today. You want to let the peeps know what we're rolling with, or should we just jump right into it?
Well, yeah, you say we have a lot of stuff, but it's actually not too much. I feel like we say that, and then we'll be here an hour later. But
we'll see you in an hour and 20 minutes.
I feel like we're gonna get into kind of what's been the flavor of the week in power paddles and foam paddles. So we'll talk about some of that, and maybe our thoughts on kind of what's the best power paddle right now, since the meta has been shaken up a little bit recently. We've had a few releases, and then Lewis is going to do a sneak peek, talk about some shoes. The Mizuno Wave Exceed Tour 6s.
I need to get those out of my bag, but we'll
a lot of people love them. Yeah. And then we'll get into our normal stuff. New week, new main. What are we playing with? It's for the tournament, I assume, at this point. You never know with Lewis. He might change the day before. Net gains. How are we getting better, or are we getting better? And a little NERDTOWN. I want to talk about EPP foam, since it's kind of a hot topic again right now. We've talked about it before, but I'll just touch on some of the basics again.
Hell yeah. All right. Well, we got a couple foam paddles that are approved that we're going to talk about. J2FC, we talked about this last week. It wasn't approved. Literally, I think within hours of uploading, it got approved.
47 minutes later. That's what it was.
Yeah. Within like an hour, it got approved. So, Justin, that's your... As of last week, his main, we talked in grave detail about the J2 NFC versus the J2 NF, which Justin and I firmly believe are the two best of the foam cores that Honolulu Pickleball just produced. So, just a quick
correction. You said the letters wrong. That's okay, because it's confusing. There's a lot of letters, but just in case anyone's listening and confused. He meant the J2FC Plus and the J2 NF. You said NFC, which I'm not sure is a model or might become the model for the NF.
NFC, dang. Oh boy, I'm struggling.
Well, it's all right. I was just pointing it out for the listeners, because there are a lot of letters and it is confusing. But yeah, FC Plus and the J2 NF.
Yes, I prefer the NF slightly. You prefer the FC Plus.
I got a bit of an update. Well, maybe we'll talk about later.
Oh boy!
But no, it's not. It's not crazy. It's just what I figured out, because I have been these have been like rotating for me, and I figured out some circumstantial reasons, maybe just to elaborate more on, why each one is better in different scenarios.
Well, sweet. I guess we'll talk a little bit about that in a later segment. I'm going to skip around real quick and just add this one in here. The GRUVN LAZR solid foam is officially a go. They're going to slightly change a few things cosmetically with these. This is the GRUVN LAZR 16HD to be exact. Solid foam. This paddle hits pretty hard.
Yes.
I've heard some people say it hits harder than the NF. I don't necessarily agree with that, but I'd have to hit them side by side. I do think this paddle hits quite hard and is for sure either bottom tier power or potentially mid tier. But nonetheless, great shape, lots of power, a pretty stiff feel for solid foam core, which is definitely something that is not definitely something unique for sure. Most of the foam core paddles that we've had have felt pretty plush, pretty muted, apart from really the NF and this GRUVN LAZR 16HD solid foam. So these are officially approved, good to go. I'm not sure exactly when the release date is, but it is soon. So
you can pre-order
anything
right now.
else? You can pre-order. Okay. I couldn't remember if it was pre-order or it was happening next week. Yeah, just checked. They are $179 before code pursuit. They will be on pre-order now and are going to expect to ship July 22nd. So, Justin, you want to add a few things to that, obviously?
Yeah, 180, that's a solid deal, for these full foam paddles.
Very
Most
good
of them
deal.
have been well over 200. Before the Honolulus, they're now coming in like 175 after code, which I think that means that the GRUVN will come in even lower after code, but in the same ballpark. So Lewis showed the red one. This is blue. It's this carbon fiber Kevlar hybrid weave, if you want to call it that. And the graphics we have aren't final. There's a little bit of difference here, but it's very close to this.
Yeah.
Like Lewis said, this is one of our favorite hybrid shapes. Just like a perfect handle, uses all the full dimensions, super stable, just like does nothing wrong, and looks pretty good. I like the shape. Just to kind of throw my 2 cents in there about what you said. I would call this a power paddle. But I guess for me, it would be, kind of lower end of power or maybe middle. It's not competing with the Ripples or the Pro 4s.
I would agree.
I would slot this in below the J2 NF on power. But it's kind of deceptive, though, because I think it does feel a lot stiffer and almost like poppier than the J2 NF. So you definitely feel like you're smacking the ball, whereas the NF has a little bit more dwell, so it doesn't feel as powerful. But I think in practice, the NF does hit harder. But that's not to take anything away from this. I really like the crisp. Paddle. Yeah, I like the crisp poppy feel, and it's solid. And it, from what I've seen on the X-rays, it doesn't have like a floating core, so that would explain why maybe there's a little less dwell and a little bit more of a crisp feel. But yeah, a very good foam paddle. Like this is immediately going to go, towards the top of the list of foam paddles as far as like what I would choose to play with. And to come in at 180 before code, that's an awesome price. GRUVN has always done, good prices and a ton of options. So I won't be surprised if this ends up coming in additional shapes and maybe additional services and things like that. So cool paddle, good paddle for sure.
Yes. Yeah, I'll definitely be playing with this a little more. I think this one might be worth reviewing.
I could see that.
So expect at the very least a comparison video or a in-depth follow-up on a podcast. Potentially may review it, but I do think this is, for the price, an incredible paddle. So 161 after code, which is crazy. That's so really if you're somebody who wants a core that is not going to have a much, much, much lower chance of degrading in any way, shape, or form, I think this is a really awesome paddle to check out, especially if you're someone who doesn't want like a super duper powerful paddle.
But it's powerful.
GRUVN.
It's more than like an all court. So
it's a lot to dial in and has some serious firepower, but it's not going to be like a YOLO Pro 4 Ripple or even the Holbrook Arma type power. So really interesting paddle. Definitely one that I'll need to hit more because the shape is awesome. So 161 pre-order after code pursuit. GRUVN right back into the top of the pile. People are dropping crazy paddles left and right. So,
and we talked about this, but as a lore shout out, one of my longtime mains actually was the GRUVN, what was it, MoveN 13S back in the day. It was just like a Gen 2 thermoform paddle. standard shape, but with a good handle, and it was 13 millimeters. And that was like one of my longest mains. I love that paddle.
Mm-hmm.
So I just think that, the GRUVN, like I said, they've always been good at providing smart options, whether that's multiple shapes and multiple surfaces. And they've never really been behind the curve when it comes to like, at that time, there weren't as many thin paddles. There were only a couple 14s, and then GRUVN came with the 13. And then, thinner paddles have become a lot more popular since then. And right now, they're not behind the curve at all on full foam. I think they're like right with the next wave, one of the kind of first companies, which is good to see.
Yeah. A lot of people give like Honolulu crap for having so many models. I think GRUVN may have more models than the Honolulu Pickleball Company. Two of the most robust lineups that I've seen from a paddle company. So yeah, I would be shocked if they did not have a solid foam option in every shape in the next few months. Yeah. But great company overall, great paddles. And we'll move on to a pretty unheard of, at least for me, company that just sent me some Gen 3 paddles. It is Aireo, I believe is how you pronounce it. AIREO. These are the Titan Hawk L16 and 14 millimeter Gen 3 paddles. They say that these have titanium, like actual titanium in the face layup. I didn't really
like
question. Yeah, it's kind of a woven looking, meshy looking fabric.
You can see it.
Very, very small. If you didn't really get close and look at it, you would just think that this was a raw carbon fiber top layer. But yeah, I'm not 100% sure if it actually is using titanium or not. But nonetheless, it is a slightly different face top layer compared to what we know traditionally as titanium or polyester PET. So these are elongated shape paddles. They have the propulsion core type extra edge foam enhanced. It's probably just a little bit different than Yola, but I would say these are very similar to what you'd expect from like a C45 or a Yola in terms of just like feel. Not quite as exponential or logarithmic as the Yola Pro 4, and actually has a much more pleasing and consistent, feedback across the entire face. The 16 was, I don't know if I'd even call this a power paddle.
Really?
This one was pretty soft. I would say it's like all court, tip of all court. The 14 had similar power on drives and serves, but had a pretty substantial jump in pop, like very, very noticeable. First return I hit was pretty long. So a definite increase in firepower from this 14 millimeter model. These are good paddles. The only issue I have with them is they are pretty expensive. I think they were $269 or $280. I can't remember. I'll put the actual price up right here on the bottom of the screen. But for the price, I don't think they outperformed paddles like the C45, the Selkirk Era, or the 11624 power paddles. So 3 very, very similar paddles in terms of layup and construction. I don't think these perform quite as well. However, maybe you may be into this design and just want something that is a little bit more predictable compared to the Yola Pro 4. This might be an option for you. They are going to give me a code, and I'll let you know what the price is at the bottom of the screen as well. But that was my one gripe. I think they're a little overpriced for what's out there on the market. So, especially from an unproven brand. So,
yeah,
we're going to move on to another set of paddles. I haven't hit these yet, but these are from Revolin. Revolin has, I'm sure you've heard that name. They have quite a few different models out there. These are the Revolin Torch Reach, which is an elongated paddle.
Uh-oh.
And for those who are listening, I just threw up some air quotes, and the Torch Pure long handle. So this Pure is a standard shape paddle. It is pretty much 0.1 away from using the full allotted dimensions. This Revolin Torch Reach is listed as an elongated shape paddle. It is absolutely not an elongated paddle. It is, if I remember correctly, it's 16.37 by 7.37. So it's not only shorter than a traditional elongated shape paddle, it is also, I'm losing focus for some reason on my, one sec, guys. All right, it's not only shorter than an elongated paddle, it's also significantly more narrow. So this one, for that reason, I'm just not even going to hit it. I think that's a huge miss, in my personal opinion. Giving up so much paddle face real estate is a huge miss, in my opinion. However, I did bounce the ball off these. They feel strikingly similar to like a Bantam 14.3 or 12.7 millimeter paddle.
What is the thickness?
Very 14 millimeters. Yeah. So they are Gen 2 thermoform paddles, and they have a very crisp, stiff feel to them. So, I'll have to hit the pure LH, and then maybe I'll try the Reach, but I don't think this is a shape that really aspires too much confidence, and it's just, I'm pretty picky about paddles in terms of them using the full allotted dimensions. That's a big discrepancy, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's become a bit of a pet peeve, right?
Yeah.
It's just like a simple thing to do. So Revolin is the company that uses all kinds of renewable resources like flax and things like that. So are those carbon fiber, or there something, in
these have lava flex is what they're calling it. I think it's basalt.
It has the basalt. Yeah.
I can't remember the exact
super
but
cool.
It's basically it's a totally different not totally different, but it looks like it's raw carbon fiber, but they also add that lava flex material or that basalt material that gives it a pretty punchy feel. But I do think the overall aesthetics and the quality of the paddles are very, very, very good.
Those are thermoformed?
Yes, they are thermoformed from what I remember.
Here's what I know, and I don't know if this is 100% accurate, but I've never played a Revolin paddle, but I've always been interested in what they're doing because they have like I said, renewable materials. They've had flax fibers used in facing layups. Now they've used basalt, which is essentially lava rock. So it's actually not bad for the environment to use it. It's readily available. It's essentially renewable because, our planet is always creating more of it, which is really cool. And I think a lot of their stuff was actually at least partially or fully made in the U.S. because it was using these, interesting materials.
Yeah,
now,
everything is made in the U.S. They do say it's made with natural materials that helps reduce carbon emissions, and obviously is made in the U.S. like I said.
Yeah, and that is proven. Companies can't just make those claims. They have to be held accountable. And I saw on one of their stories recently that they actually got a grant from someone in their state that was basically about companies using renewables, and they used that grant to buy a thermoforming press, just a little single press machine. So they're going to be able to start making hot molded, hot pressed paddles here in the U.S., even if it's just for prototyping. But in order to get those type of grants, like I said, you have to prove that you really are cutting down on your carbon footprint. So that's really good on them, and that's really interesting, and that's kind of what really sets them apart. Now, I have no idea about the playability of the paddles. I haven't played them. I just think that's interesting and pretty cool that they choose to use some more environmentally friendly materials, and it's obviously very creative. It's not easy to do, to say I'm going to figure out how to use materials that no one else is using and make things.
Now that you're saying that,
well.
I'm not seeing anything on here that's saying it is thermoformed. So
as far as I know, most of their previous paddles were quote unquote Gen 1, because they were making them here.
They might be. Their edges of the handle do feel a little bit more pliable than most thermoform that have the carbon seam that's heat welded. So that could potentially could potentially be
if it
Gen
plays
1,
well, it
which
plays
makes
well. Gen 1 isn't necessarily a bad thing if you do it right.
Right. Absolutely, as we've seen in the Bantam series from Paddletech and the Engage Pursuit lineup.
And the new Auroras are kind of leaning into that as well.
Yeah, I haven't hit those yet. They were supposed to send us some, right?
I think that was the plan, but
yeah,
haven't followed up or anything, and we haven't seen any yet.
All good. I have so many freaking paddles. Yeah. All right, we'll move on to the Selkirk SLK Era Power. These paddles are officially available. You can use code INF-Pursuit. I think that'll give you something around like a $20 or $30 gift card for the purchase of an Era Power paddle. This is the elongated shape. It is very, very good. A little bit longer and skinnier than what I am typically used to, but I've been leaning into the elongated shapes quite well lately. Justin, have you hit that yet?
No, this just came in, and then I was gone for a week.
Yeah, I couldn't remember if it came before or after.
But yeah, I have the blue one. You have the white one. A couple things I want to call out, not even about playability, just about things I noticed immediately. First off, the handle has hard pallets. This is a very good feeling handle, and it's quite long. Like I don't have the tape measure handy, but it feels probably like 5 3/4 inches. Like it's pushing 6 inches. Very comfortable.
You could almost do no finger on the.
Probably a lot of people could do no finger just fine, especially if you scoot your bottom hand down. But as you see, Lewis has a white one. There's also this kind of cyan blue colorway. And then something else I just noticed, look, they have a different edge guard than any other paddles. I don't know how well the camera's going to pick this up, but it's just like a textured kind of striping, and you can kind of see it. There's 2 little textured stripes along the edge. And it's just a nice touch. It doesn't seem like anything that would prevent weighted tape or anything from sticking like that. But
no, I can put my little tungsten pot on there with no issue. I also did have like just the regular tungsten tape on here and no issues. But yeah, it is slightly different. It's a little bit like, it's got like a center line that's smooth, and then on the outside it has like 2 ribbed areas, like very, very stripes, small. Yeah. And then it goes back to that smooth finish. And then it actually has one more ribbed right at the inner side of the edge guard that goes to the paddle face.
So all that to say is, like, edge guards, we've been saying this a lot. I don't know how many times I've said this over the past year, but they've just been ripe for innovation because they're so incredibly simple. And it's just like, a simple material to work with. And there have been very few companies who have done anything creative. We saw Gherkin make the textured silicone ones. That was cool. And then now we've seen Diadem make like a thinner version out of a different material, presumably to keep down on weight. But it's just interesting to see, and I hope we see more of it from more companies. And I will say the aesthetics of this paddle are awesome. I think it looks great.
Yeah, it's a good looking paddle for sure.
It's got like a loud pop up here with the SLK, but they keep it kind of minimal. And then the center graphics are just kind of the overblown logo lines. It's not going to mess with spin, and it looks cool. And then just to have like the model name here. I think they just hit all the points that they're supposed to hit for a clean yet strong design. So, and the new shapes, while this is a bit thin for an elongated, we have this one, and then there's the new wide body shape, which is exactly the same as like the Neonic Flare, which we both love. So good on Selkirk for modernizing and updating their shapes. I think those are really good.
We say these are thin, but they are the typical. Most elongated shape paddles are 16.57 by 7.4. This is 16.55 by 7.4. So they're actually, giving you at least a little extra reach than what most other manufacturers or molds are giving you. So
if you're an elongated player, this isn't going to feel weird to you at all, I don't think.
No.
I think it's going to feel totally normal.
Does yours have any separation of the edge guard and paint at the top edges of the kind of graphic? No, okay. I do have like a small, I imagine just it's loosening up the more I hit it, and the more I hit the edge guard is probably pulling it just slightly away from the face paint. But price aside, this is easily a top tier performing paddle.
Well, yeah.
There's nothing negative I can say about these paddles. They perform as good as just about anything out there. However, there are a few paddles that are cheaper or provide more nuanced performance characteristics that other people may like a lot more. I would say these, based on the X-ray alone and just the playability, these feel strikingly similar to the 11624 Hirachi X. The construction is almost identical. It's very, very similar. But anything you want to add to that, man?
No, that's what I haven't played it, but everything we know is it's nearly identical to 11624 powers, which you and I have always said, some of the best power paddles, on the market. And we were famously, people maybe didn't like that we chose those over the Yola Pro 4s as better power paddles back in the day. So if we're choosing those and the SLK is essentially the same, and some new shapes. Like I said, the wide body shape that they do is identical to the Neonic Flare and the Pickle Hurricane. And that is like probably my favorite standard shape out there. So that's a shape that 11624 doesn't offer. They have like kind of the wide body in the Pegasus, and then the Vapor, which is kind of almost standard, almost hybrid, but a little bit different. Maybe you don't get along with those. So having another option, another shape, and a different styling, very cool.
Yep, good stuff from Selkirk. They are officially on par with everybody now, which is crazy to say. They've been behind for a very, very, very long time, but they are.
Not shocking. Almost every Selkirk Pro switched to these.
Oh, not at all. Not at all.
Yeah.
It is by far, leaps and bounds better than every single Selkirk paddle I've ever played with. So yeah. Speaking of which, I will be doing a best power paddle video coming up soon. I'm going to be comparing the SLK Era, the 11624 Hirachi X, the C45 14 millimeter Dynasty, which is their elongated, the Yola Pro 4, the Ronbus Ripple, and I may potentially include like the Arma. Definitely will include the J2NF, and that's really it. So about 7 paddles that I'm gonna put head to head. I think I might make this one a little different. I'm gonna be a little more talky, less gameplay and paddle footage. But that's kind of the next video I have coming out. I feel like there's so many great power paddles that just came out. It's hard to figure out which one is right for you. So, spoiler alert, I'm not going to pick the Yola Pro 4 as it's the best one. So, stand by that pretty firmly. Perfectly fine paddle, elite power and pop. Just a few things about it that I don't think it performs as well as others. So, Justin, since you won't be in that video, what do you think is the best power paddle right now, man?
Out of the ones I've played,
yeah,
J2NF. That's not that hard of a decision. Are you going to include the new PaddleTech GTO or the TKO TX? Or are you going to kind of keep
not
it to
the TKO? We're not supposed to say GTO yet.
Oh,
yeah.
You can edit that out.
Yeah, I'll edit that out.
It's been shown on Instagram and everything.
Oh, it has? Okay. Yeah, they said you can...
images have been shown and everything.
You can show it. You just can't talk about any details about it. So I think we can keep that in and not have any issues. They said on the 23rd.
I won't say anything about it.
What's today? The 23rd.
23rd.
Yeah. We can show a photo of it. Can't talk about it. There is a new PaddleTech paddle that's coming out. That's all I'll say. Yeah. Full
may
stop.
or may not be included.
May or may not included. Yeah.
So,
but
for me, if I'm making the video and if I was to run down the list, I'm just going to rapid fire, and this is not thorough at all, right? I would probably say J2NF. We're not including the J2FC Plus. Nah, because it's a little bit lower.
Yeah, I'm not going to. I think the NF is just a better power paddle.
I would say J2NF, 11624 powers, Selkirk Eras, Yola Pro 4s. What was the other one?
Ripple, Arma, C45.
C45, Ripple. Can't speak to the Arma. So I'll leave that one out.
I'll probably leave the arm out just because there are some durability issues that are not, they're just up in the air. I'll wait until those become clear. Yeah. Concerns. Yeah. I know Chris has had his crush in about 10 hours. With that being said, Tyler from Holbrook, very, very receptive about it. Very professional response, and more importantly, people asked, "Hey, if we get a replacement and it breaks, and that one breaks, what's going to happen?" And he was just like, "I'll sum it up in 3 words: we will replace."
Yeah,
we'll replace.
That sounds awesome.
Like it's no big deal. Yeah. So, if you're somebody who doesn't care about throwing in a bunch of warranties, that's a good paddle. Feels great. I think it has a very unique playing characteristic, and it's not one that I think is a poor performer in any way, shape, or form. It's solid. So just the durability concerns are something I'm not sure about yet. We'll let the market find that out. So we're going to move on to sneak peek, baby. We're going to talk about the Mizuno Wave Exceed Tour. Let me go grab those real quick, and then I'll be right back. All right, so these are the Mizuno Wave Exceed Tour shoes. These are a more speedy shoe, lighter weight, but they shockingly have a good amount of cushion and just like a slightly more plush feel than I was expecting. I thought they were going to be kind of rigid, I thought they were going to my feet were going to hurt. Pretty much. But they broke in very quickly. This upper is very supple. It reminds me a lot of soccer cleats that I used to wear. There's a soccer cleat called the Nike Phantom, which had like a very stretchy upper, but not overly stretchy to where you're moving around. It just kind of was supple and allowed your foot to kind of mold to the upper and then move freely. So really like this shoe a lot. I was
How long have you been
a little bit
wearing it?
Nervous. 2.5 months. Right? So yeah, I've had these for quite a while. This is the wear from 2.5 months of play. It is shockingly still chugging along. The bottom, just this one little part, has worn down. Everything else is pretty much still groovy. Very, very, very impressive durability. I was not expecting that at all, because I know you previously
used durability warranty?
Yeah, there's 6 months outsole warranty. So if you burn through this outsole, you can replace it at no questions asked. I think all you have to do, if I'm not mistaken, is just take a picture and send it to them, and then send them your receipt of purchase, and then they send you your extra pair. So could be wrong about that. You might have to send them your shoes, but
it depends on where you buy them from.
Yeah, nonetheless, these have lasted much longer than I was expecting. Do have a slight bit of wear on the upper kind of, right here where you would slide your foot. It's still holding up pretty well. I have seen a friend of mine bust through these, but they also have gone through the outsole. So they, have I guess, met that amount of wear to where I wouldn't really consider that, a negative. So with this shoe, if you are looking for a speedy shoe that also is pretty comfortable and going to give you some even more speed back to your movement, I think this is easily one of the highest recommendations I can make for a shoe right now. If you're someone who has like really sensitive feet and you are used to having just bricks on your feet that are really going to add a ton of support and cushioning, I would not advise trying these. But if you're someone who's just kind of doesn't really have any issues with, that and needing ultra cush, ultra comfortable, ultra supportive shoes, these are very, very good shoes. I don't really have anything negative to say about them, man. Apart from one thing. You do lace these up, and the tongue does just slightly come down, and it doesn't really affect anything. I don't feel like any lace pressure. I just hate the way it looks. I don't know why. It like pisses me off. But yeah, a very weird and kind of unnecessary complaint.
So I got 2 questions about those real quick. Number one, I'll just talk about what you talked about, because I tried those on because they kind of fit the profile of what I like in a shoe generally. They are similar style of shoe to the ASICS Solution Speeds, which I wore quite a bit.
Yes, yeah.
So for me, I use a runner's knot on the top knot, and I'm like usually cranking my laces down, and that tongue gets real thin and kind of splits at the top. You were saying it's annoying to you that it slides down. For me, I noticed immediately like I could feel a lot of lace pressure around the top of my foot, and the only way to get rid of it was to loosen my laces, which I didn't love. But that was like the only thing that I noticed. The second thing I'll ask you about is I think they do a cool job of kind of building in that whole external frame / shank that goes from the heel through the arch. And when you have like these more minimal, speedy shoes, having like a frame or some type of shank that's really supportive like that is super important, because it actually helps support your arch and torsional stability. It gives a little snapback like you're showing, but also it keeps the shoe from twisting too much, which is how you can develop plantar fasciitis or injuries in your arch. So I was going to ask you.
No, it's so rigid. It has very small amount of torsional movement.
Does it feel very midfoot stable to you, like hard cut side to side?
Yes, I think this is it's a pretty, for I guess the best way to describe it is I was expecting this to not really be stable at all. Like I thought I was going to feel like almost naked, barefoot kind of feeling. Kind of similar to what I got with like soccer cleats, because soccer cleats are very minimal. They're really just designed to give you an ultra like minimal feel, but also great, traction and whatnot. I thought it was going to be very similar to that. It definitely did feel like a shockingly stable shoe, but it's not going to be nearly as stable as like probably their Wave, Enforce, which is their more maximal shoe, or things like the New Balance CT Rallies or Coco golf shoes. This is just for a speed shoe. I feel like this is probably going to be one of the more stable, if not the most stable shoes.
Yeah.
And I've really never met anybody who has worn these and said negative things about them. Everybody seems to like them. I get the lace pressure thing. That is, if that's something that you're sensitive to, I'm not sensitive to it, but I can 100% assure you that even as someone who is not sensitive to it, I can tell that would be a problem for people.
Yeah. It's a foot shape thing. If you have like a high instep and a high arch, which I do, then basically the top of my foot comes up a little higher in the front, so I can feel the laces a little bit more.
And it's important to note also, I do have flat feet, number one. I put a Curex insole insert in there, take out the original inserts, and then put that Curex low arch insert. And I would say like medium width feet. I wouldn't say they're narrow, but I wouldn't say that they're definitely not wide. So that is my foot shape, and I think it fits pretty well. They are fairly roomy in the toe box. I was expecting them to be a little tighter and narrower, but they do allow a pretty good amount of room in that toe box. So that's the fit of the shoe. It fits unbelievably well on your heel. Like you feel like your heel just gets sucked into there, which I really, really like. So yeah, that's really all I got. I think they're $149.
Not bad.
You can buy them anywhere, on Amazon, Tennis Warehouse, whatever.
We got to get some shoe codes at some point. You know what I mean?
I know we got to figure it out.
I would love.
The good thing about these though is you can buy them anywhere and be able to still use the outsole warranty. Yeah. So it's not just if you buy it with Tennis Express or Tennis Warehouse or whatever. So anything else before we leave sneak peek, big dog?
Nope.
All right. Well, it is time for everyone's favorite segment. New week, new main, baby. Sponsored by Bodhi Pickleball. If you are looking for grips, tungsten tape, sleeves, it's sleeve season, baby. If you're looking for bags, t-shirts, which they have a new t-shirt I posted on my story the other day. Nobody cares, but just drill more.
I know, I got
they
one
have
of those
a lot of accessories. I mean, it would take me probably 2 minutes to name every one of them, but they are all very high quality, all great stuff, and all at good prices. But you can also use code PURSUIT to save you 15% at BodhiPickleball.com. So, Bodhi, thank you so much for being the sponsor of New Week, New Maine. I can't tell you how many people I let try my paddles, and they're like, "Oh, what grip is this? This is so good." And I'm like, "Bodhi Pickleball grip, big dog."
It was my Bodhi story of the week. You know, I always have my Bodhi experience or story. Yeah. This week I was mountain biking all week, and it was low 90s or 90-ish, and I wore those sleeves every single day. So
yeah, you
not
did,
just
boy.
great for pickleball. I
stories.
did. Yeah. Oh yeah, dude. And they're so good. It was so good, So I appreciated having them. I didn't have to get all greased up with sunscreen, which matters a lot when you're biking, because then you sweat, it goes down to your hands, you lose grip. So I wore sun sleeves. Yeah.
Do you put Bodhi grips on your handlebars?
No, they make pretty good, grips. But but I do wear the sleeves, and they were so good that on the last day, I telling my wife, because she was sunscreening up. And the last day, I'm like, "You sure you don't want to wear a pair of the sleeves?"
Yeah.
And she was like, "Yeah, I do." So we even got her on the sleeves, and so it's sleeve season, baby. I'm in them all the time. Like, we go paddle boarding, I'm wearing them. We go mountain biking, I'm wearing them. I'm playing pickleball, I'm wearing them. Just too good. Yeah, it's way better than wearing a long sleeve, and it's way better than getting a ton of sunscreen on you.
Oh yeah, 100%. All right, it is a new week. Justin, is there a new main?
No. J2FC Plus. I think this is the one I got to stick with. You faked us out for the tournament. Here's where I'll make my little distinction, right? I told you I've been playing with the J2FC Plus and the J2NF. Yeah, don't worry about the L. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And both these paddles are so good. And people are constantly asking, what's the difference between them? It's so minor, but we've covered this. The minor difference is J2FC Plus, a little bit less pop, a little bit more dwell, a little bit softer feel. That's basically it,
Yeah.
Everything else is almost identical. So here's the distinction that I sort of found out by accident. And here's another testament to how close they are. I was playing indoors with a Vulcan a couple times and playing with the J2FC Plus, loving it. Exactly what I would hope for. Everything's great. And then essentially the next day after that, playing outdoors with an X40. And I was like, ugh, it's just slow. And it felt like, just mushy. And I switched to the J2NF that day, and having a little bit extra pop and more crisp paddle with the outdoor conditions and the softer ball, it was so funny because it was almost identical to how the FC Plus felt with the Vulcan indoors. Like, it was like no adjustment period. And I was like, oh crap, this is like the perfect combo. If I play outdoors with the Franklin, I want to play with the NF, and if I play indoors with a Vulcan or a harder ball, then I want to play with the FC Plus, and they're almost identical given those scenarios. So just to put that into perspective, people are always asking, how different are they? What's the difference? It's about the same difference as when you play with a faster ball versus a slower ball, or a more like mushy ball that feels like it pockets more, or a sharper, harder ball. That's about how different they are, and you can perfectly offset it if you want to get crazy like me and swap back and forth. For the setup, people are going to ask, totally stock. No weights on either of these.
Oh, raw dogging? Wow.
Yeah. Well, took off the stock grip, replaced the pallets with the 3D printed pallets. You hear that, huh? And then 2 over grips. No base grip, 2 over grips, so it stays pretty thin. These Bodhis, when you put 2 of them, have plenty of cushion, and got that firm paddle. You know what I mean? Boom.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm getting used to the 2E. I basically, what I ended up doing, by the way, is I just scoot my bottom hand was already like this with my pinky off. I've scooted so far down, my pinky is just literally not even on.
What? Dang, bro.
Yeah, when I hit a 2E, because it's the only way my left hand's going to fit. So people are asking, what's my adjustment? It's kind of on the fly. And then when I'm at the kitchen, my hand scoots back up so my pinky is back on, because I don't hit 2Es very often at the kitchen unless it's a dink. in which case I have plenty of time to kind of adjust my hands. And then it's mostly a left-hand shot ananyway, and then
you'll see me. You commented on it all the time. You're like, dude, you almost put like 2 or 3 fingers on the paddle when I do my 2-hand counter at the net.
Yeah, and I actually counter sometimes weirdly. I like if it's a quick one and I just grab, I'll be like, just slap my hand and just
whatever it takes. Yeah.
Yeah, so the counter isn't really like a full gripped 2-hand like it is like on a return or a dink or a speed up or anything like that. It's more just like you want to just like kind of get this part of your hand onto the paddle for the control and the punch.
Yeah.
So I've adjusted, I guess, to the chunky throat. Still not ideal, but the paddle is so good that I'm willing to make that adjustment.
Yeah, it is extremely good. All right, guys.
We got a surprise for us?
Here's the deal. This is the honest take. 99% new week, new main is still the J2NF. However, I am just still
really
wondering if maybe I play a little bit better with the
interesting
C45 Dynasty. I'm not sure yet. Maybe I need to pick up the FC Plus.
Have you stomped on it?
But no, I've not stomped on this. Rafa from Pickleball Tech, dude, just breaking his paddles. Rafa, you're good, bro. You're not breaking them. We're just yanking your chain, dude. But I mean, you are breaking.
Maybe
them.
You are, but
okay. Yeah, it's okay. We still love you. You're still a precious angel. Anyway, C45 Dynasty. I really, really love the feel of this paddle. It's just an awesome paddle. The shape is one of the best. I would say it's the best elongated shape. It just gives you just a touch less reach with that 17.6 width. Just really gives you that stability that you are missing from most elongated shape paddles. If you're someone like me, I've been really liking elongated shape paddles lately. This is probably my favorite one. But more importantly, it's just the length of handle. That's really the only thing I'm missing. But I guarantee you'll probably see me be playing with the J2NF this weekend.
Yeah, it's the tournament coming up, bro. So
it's like I said, 99%, but I'm going to play with that versus this in tomorrow's drill session and just make sure that I'm not going crazy. But love the J2NF. This paddle's a monster.
What's your setup?
Sorry. All right, setup. We got 6 grams, so 2 3-gram tungsten pods from Bodhi on each side. One is just under the bottom corner, and then one is just above the top corner. The bottom corner. So, and then I have I think it's a 6-gram flick weight on the bottom, and just the Bodhi grip. Yeah. I like my paddles a little bit heavier.
You strong,
just a tiny bit.
Well, so for my setup,
heavier
worth it being
weight,
said that
stock weight, not heavier swing weight. I like 120 is about my max that I can take.
What I've noticed about these paddles, this is my personal preference here, but first off, I added the 3D printed handle pallets, which overall adds about 4 grams. So versus the original ones. So I've essentially added 4 grams in the handle myself, 4 to 5 grams in the handle. But what I would say about this J2 shape in specific, it actually has quite a low balance point. It's like one of the lowest balance points for a hybrid. So I am not tempted at all to add a flick weight or a slice or any of that. For me personally, like I kind of highly value like flicks and rolls. So, and the lower the balance gets on that, I feel like while it can feel snappier in your hand, in a way, I feel like it makes me do too much. So I actually tend to like paddles with a little bit, not totally head heavy, but a higher balance point for flicks and rolls where you just kind of, it's more about you just do the stroke and let the weight of the tip kind of swing through. Yeah. So with these J2s, I'm not tempted at all to put weight lower. And that's why I haven't put any weight. But if I do, I'm probably going to put it higher than I normally would in order to counteract that balance. But honestly, dude, I'm not sure it needs it. Like the stability is so good. The sweet spot's so wide. Yeah. That'd be the only thing I would do would be wanting to raise the balance point. But I'm hesitant because I also don't want to increase the swing weight. So
which it's like 113 stock, so it's not like it's crazy high, but
no, it's pretty good.
It's one of the, it's kind of like a unicorn
I got a heavier one than you, though. Mine was 8.3 stock.
Mine was 8.2, I think.
Yeah, so...
But the J2 NFs are very unique in the sense that they have high power, high pop with low balance point and fairly low swing weight. We haven't really had much of that in the paddle landscape, apart from really just like the Scorpius Pro 4. That's really the only one. So, good paddle, ridiculously good paddle.
Yeah.
But yeah, we just that handle. That's it. Literally, the only complaint you can make about those paddles now.
Yeah. Some people won't care at all. Some people won't mind it.
Yeah. FC Plus, real quick. I'll let my boy BK play with it. He has the J2 Ti, and he was like, I pre-ordered the FC Plus. Is it good? And I was like, why don't you try it? He played one game. He's like, this paddle is the truth.
It's so good.
Yeah, that's a walking ad. I don't know what else is. He didn't want to give it back to me. He's like, bro, this paddle's so good.
You know, we've kind of inverted our preferences to talk about the pickleball pursuit lore here. You normally prefer paddles that dwell more, and I normally prefer paddles that are stiffer and crisper. But here I am with the FC Plus that dwells a little bit more than the NF, and you're on the NF, which is a little bit crisper and poppier. So I reserve my right to change my opinion.
The Neonic Flare Prime X and then the C45 going from one to that one, those paddles have completely changed my paddle preference in the past, 6 months.
Yeah.
To extremely, good and responsive paddles. So long new week, new main, bro. But it was a good one. We had a lot of good stuff in there. Yep. All right, we're going to move on to net gains. And we're going to talk about our tournament prep. Justin and I, we told you guys we're back together. We're seeing each other. We're going to go on a little date. We got a tournament coming up. Justin's playing 4-0 mixed 35 plus, right? 35 to 49, right?
Yeah.
And then he and I will be playing 4-0 35 to 49 as well. Guys, you may not believe this.
But you said in my 4-0 plus.
We're older. We're older than 35 years old. I'm 35. Justin, you're 36.
Yeah.
Right?
So we're barely older. We barely qualify, okay.
We may look like babies, but we're old people now. But we are playing together. I'm playing 408, just like the non-age division. So just
under 35,
whatever age,
basically.
Yeah, under 35, basically. So, because my partner is she's like 23, 24. So, yeah, man, we are playing together. Justin, tell me what we're gonna do, man. Tell the people, what are we gonna do? In the past,
first off, let's say this, and then we'll get into ours.
Yeah,
in a way, I'm like sort of happy that we're playing two different divisions in mixed. I would have hated for us to have to play. Yeah. Like I told you, whenever we both said we were playing mixed, and I thought at first we were going to be in the same division, I was like, hopefully we don't play each other again until the finals. Nerdy tourney, because I think it would suck to have to
if this goes
eliminate each other.
Blanket statement: I despise playing my friends. Despise. I hate playing my friends in tournaments. Yeah, love playing them in rec play, but as soon as it gets competitive, I don't like to play them.
That was a big part of the motivation for me why I wanted to do the 35 to 50 age bracket, because honestly, normally we might just do the under 35 one just because it has more teams. But when I knew you were in that, and then actually there were a good bit of teams in the 35 to 50, I was like, let's just try to sign up for this one.
Yeah.
All right. So now men's. So again, I've had about a week off. It's been almost a week since I played pickleball, but I have been cross training. We'll call it that.
Oh baby. Yeah.
So I mean, I think it's been pretty clear that my issue, or what's keeping me from the next level, isn't necessarily my available skills. It is my mentality being locked in, and to a degree my own laziness, which can be related to fitness. So I have been focusing a lot on training my muscle endurance, specifically in my legs, so I can stay bent for longer. I don't find myself standing up, and doing a little bit of PT and stretching for my lower back, because I think that's a lot of the reason why I find myself standing up and getting out of ready stance. So cycling has been a big part of my cross training. It's actually really good for your quads and your legs in general, which is good for staying squatted and staying low.
Bro, if you want to kill your legs, go biking. Oh my God, dude.
Dude, the hills, man. Yeah, it does murder your quads when you're climbing hills.
Oh, it is no joke.
Yeah.
You may think you're in good shape. Go jump on a bike, big dog. That'll humble you quick.
So and it's fun, I guess depending on what type of cycling you're doing. But yeah, specifically for the prep, I lined up a really good drill session tonight with one of my friends who's better than me, so I will lose every drill game, but that's good. Get me a lot of reps. And then we lined up a really good game tomorrow morning with a group of 4 guys, and they're all, at the right level or a level just a little bit higher than me, where it's good practice for me. It gives me a stretch. And specifically, I told them in the group chat, I was like, hey, I'm prepping for a tournament, so don't take it easy on me, give me all the looks. And then of course the next day I'll be headed down, and you and I will do some practice, maybe some drilling with each other against harder opponents, as well as probably do some mixed practice, which we will need since it's essentially a blind date for me. So that'll be helpful. And yeah, so as far as strategy, I think this time around, what we might do different strategy-wise is I might be on the left a little bit more. We'll reserve the right to stay flexible and kind of change that. I think you and I both are okay with that. Just being like, hey, this isn't working, or this is feeling better, let's just swap,
Yeah.
But I bet you will mostly half stack because it's not such a massive advantage to full stacking. I think it would probably, the unwinding the stack and getting in trouble there, the disadvantage of that would outweigh whatever advantage we'd have from full stacking.
Yeah.
So I assume we're going to half stack, put me on the left, just because Lewis, by the way, is way better than me on the right. So that's the main reason. It's not because oh, I'm some alpha dog who needs to play the left. I am better on the left than I am on the right, and Lewis is better than me on the right. So it's just the right thing for our team. And I feel much better setting up patterns and points on the left. So I actually feel like a better teammate on the left because I can talk to my partner and say, hey, what do you want? What are you seeing? What do you like? What are your favorite type of shots? And for some reason, just the way I personally see the game, I'm able to, with thinking and drop position and things like that, I feel like I'm able to set things up better, much better on the left. On the right, I have none of that. I don't know, for me, it's more of a survival, don't fuck up when I'm on the right. And be ready for the right stuff. You know what I mean? But ideally, a good partner, you should be able to set up patterns for yourself and for your partner. I can't do that on the right efficiently. So I think that's the main reason I'm better on the left. I also just have a lot more options. Kind of usually my most dangerous, the most dangerous part of my game is backhands out of the air, which you get a lot more of from the left. So,
but when I was going to tell you this, when you're on the right, bro, and I'm in a dinking cross-court battle, I want you sucking up that space because your backhand flick and you're long as hell. That's such a good right side shot.
It's tough though. It's a different vibe. When you're on the left and the ball, you have so much more time. The ball comes across and it comes at this angle to your backhand. It's so much easier to put it back that way, put it up the line. When you're on the right, it's more of a poke. You have to read it so fast to reach in and poke it. So it's a different thing. I'm happy to do it. And we did it a couple times last time you and I played MLP, where you got into, you're good at dink battles, right? You'd just be I'm just going to keep hitting it until you screw up. You will cross-court dink battle more than me. I would switch up patterns. Yeah. But there was a couple times where you got into a backhand cross-court dink on the left, and someone popped one up in the middle, and I was able to reach in and poke it.
Yeah. That's a shot that if you practice, you'd be elite at that because you have a good backhand flick and you get a lot of shape on your backhand flick. Mine's not as dangerous as yours. Mine's just kind of a raise up flick, whereas yours is you go paddle tip down all the way up, and you're very aggressive. But I don't think there's any reason apart from you getting cold or us recognizing a huge strange outlier strategy reason for me to go to the left. It just doesn't make I just don't think I'll be playing much left.
And what we saw from the
I like to play on
tourney,
the left, which is fun.
Well, you'll play on the left when you're returning and we're stacked.
Yeah,
because I don't think.
But I have definitely gotten a lot better on the right. Because I've been
you have
a little passenger princess the last few.
No, you absolutely have. I think you're pretty good on the right.
Yeah, I'm solid. I'm
your
decent,
positioning, your movement, your dinks. And the other thing we talked about choosing left and right, and this was kind of accentuated at the nerdy tourney, is that my forehand drive has gotten a lot better and a lot more consistent.
Yeah.
So me playing the left, I'll be able to take more third drives, and you're like a big, tall guy, so we can shake and bake with me driving the thirds from the left and you crashing.
Oh yeah, for sure. No, I have I got to get over wanting to play on the left or right or having like a side preference because it doesn't matter. It's
I agree.
it is a
Team
thing.
dependent.
It's like, oh, the left side player is more dominant, and people do get egos, and I'm not somebody who likes to have much of an ego, but that is something that I do have a little bit of an ego about, like
really?
I want to play on the left, but also, who gives a shit? I would much rather play on the right and win than play on the left and lose.
Yeah, I don't think it's an ego thing, and maybe that's growth for us. I think we would just recognize the patterns are better that way.
Yeah.
It's not that I'm saying like, hey, I'm better than you, get on the right.
No. That's I'm not saying you are saying that or one person is a stronger player than the other. It's just I like to play for whatever reason. I like to play on the left. It's fun. It's one of those I genuinely think it's one of those like ego things. You feel like you have more impact in the game and you want to have more impact in the game. But I need to get over that because
what
it
other
doesn't
strategy
matter.
things are we gonna do? We're never talking about this.
We're definitely gonna just get balls back. Like that is going to be the key to winning. Me and Richie were playing. I'm not gonna say who we're playing, but they're definitely better players than us, and we kind of smacked them up. And we did nothing different. We didn't try to initiate any speed ups. We didn't try to initiate any crazy points. All we did was get balls back and then capitalize on mistakes. Yeah. And pickleball is literally that simple. Yeah. We just have to stay locked in and try to get every ball back. That's really it. Mm-hmm. I think if we can get every ball back, they're going to mess up before we do. Because we have good counters. We also have very good putaways, both of us. Your putaway with your backhand is really good. My putaway with my forehand is really strong. And I don't think people are going to be able to get many of our putaways back. So we let them make the mistake. I'm going to have that gold medal wrapped around our neck, big dog. You should bring your belt. Yeah, you should bring your belt.
Playing it or what?
Yeah, playing it.
It's pretty freaking heavy, by the way. And also not very comfortable because there are like big screw heads across the whole back of it. Just in case anyone was wondering. So
dang. Well, it's the price you have to pay for greatness,
Hey, well, I don't know if you can see it, but just put it in the shot. It might be cut out. It's back there.
Beauty is pain, All right. Anything else for tournament prep? Anything? I guess I'm just working on just being consistent and getting balls over. That's really it.
Yeah,
that's all I'm focused on.
I'm with you. For me, my consistency issues stem more from my footwork and positioning, which stem from me not being locked in. So it all traces back to mental for me personally. Whenever I'm mentally locked in and I'm more ready, then I don't end up in these situations where I make a stupid error because I'm just standing up or whatever. So this is a long journey for me. I've been making progress. The nerdy tourney was like a big step into actually realizing being more mentally locked in a tournament setting. And I still had streaks there, and I'm sure I'll still have streaks where I kind of
of course
string a couple errors together and then be like, have to relock in,
Yeah.
So hopefully this is just another jump and improvement on that way.
It is psychotic for either of us to expect a full tournament of being locked in and not going through a valley of 2-3 mistakes in a row. That is just ignorant to think that will happen. Yeah.
And I think I said this the other day to my coach. We were chatting after watching the nerdy tourney games, and basically, what I would like to do is, ideally, I would like to play at 90% of my potential at night for 90% of the time. I understand that I'm not going to be able to play 100% of my potential. Every now and then I might hit an amazing shot, but that's not the point. You don't want to play fine margins like that. Also, I understand that maybe 10% of the time you're going to get distracted or lazy or whatever it may be. So ideally, that's where I'd like to be. 90% of my potential, 90% of the time. Right now, I feel like because I'm going for too fine of margins and doing too much, but then also not being locked in, I feel like I'm playing 100% of my potential 50% of the time. You know what I mean? So I need to dial back, go more consistency on my shot choices and my margins and things, while also becoming more locked in and building the consistency. So it's a bit of a balance.
One thing I've noticed from both of us, it is unbelievable how much better we play when we just don't try to do too much.
Yeah.
We just try to play the game. Just go for it. Let the game come to us rather than try to bring the game to everybody else. Now, that excludes hitting third shot drives because that's a more aggressive shot.
But even still, I hit those at like 70% now. That's what I've gotten. Yeah. That's how I've gotten better at drives. First off, I fixed my footwork and my form, but I just don't ever hit 100% drives anymore. The only time I kind of do it is when I'm hitting straight at someone's body after they've shown me they have problems blocking. And I'm like, this isn't going in, but I'm just ripping it right at them. Maybe the Nerdy Tourney final. But for the most part,
I was in my head.
Saw this. I hit more like 70% and try to get more dip. Not as much power.
Oh, yeah.
Just more dip.
Yeah. Yep. Bro, we hit balls over, win a win. There's no doubt about it in my mind. So
as always, I feel overly confident. So we'll see what we come back and say.
I feel good. Yeah, I feel good. I feel like we are finally at a point where we can do what we want our bodies to do, but more importantly, mentality-wise, we're not at a point where we're trying to just like assert dominance, if you will. Like that got us in a lot of trouble. That gets me in a lot of trouble when I try to do too much. We're just gonna play the game. We got this. I'm a be a little right side princess.
Stare at the ball.
Stare at the ball. Yeah, I'll be. I play slightly aggressive on the right side. I go for a few shots here and there, but that's only with like counters and whatnot. So I usually don't initiate very many speed ups. When I do, sometimes I get in trouble. Brent ate my lunch at the Nerdy Tourney. Good God. All right. Long net gains, but the boys are back, and we just wanted to flirt a little bit, so you're welcome. Yeah. All right, we're going to move on to NERDTOWN. Mayor, the Oracle. All right. Bring us.
2-2. Okay. This is something we touched on in the past, but just wanted to, it's prevalent right now, but wanted to talk again about EPP and other expanded beaded foams, right? And kind of what they are. And like I said, we've talked about in this past, but with the J2s, the NFs, and then the GRUVN, and a lot of these full foam paddles, the 008, the Blue Core, the list goes on, right? This is what we've settled on. And months ago, before a lot of these were coming out, we had pretty much said, there's all these different types of foams. There's sheet foams that are made from a sheet, and then you cut them out into a shape. And then there's beaded expanding foams. There's multiple others. But what has come to the front as the best option for playability, passing testing, durability, the right weight has been these beaded expanding foams, specifically EPP expanded polypropylene, which is the same polymer, the same plastic that honeycomb is made out of, just in a different form now. So there's a couple different ways that beaded foam can be made and used. And it starts out just like it sounds, little beads. Picture what the filling of a beanbag looks like. These kind of little oval, irregular, tiny little beads, right? And that's how they are. And then whenever you heat them, they expand. Not only do they expand, but they fuse to each other, as well as, depending on the material, they will then fuse to the items around them. So there are a couple ways to kind of accomplish this in a paddle scenario. So number one, you can make a sort of a compression mold, like where you build the mold out of steel or aluminum or different materials, and then you will put the beads in there, and you will then add heat and pressure and let those expand to the shape of the mold. Then it's all good. You let it cool, you pop the mold open, and you have your molded product, which is made out of the foam. So a perfect example of this is the True Foam. This is the core of the True Foam, right? Now, I believe it's been said that from Carbon that the True Foam is not 100% EPP. I'm not making any claims about what type of foam this is, but the procedure is still similar. And you can kind of even see the little hole here. That's something left behind from the mold. So this is a core that is made in a mold. The mold has the shapes here that, create the voids and the holes. And you can imagine the negative of this, a certain amount of beads are poured in. And when I say a certain amount, depending on what density you're looking for, you will measure out the beads, usually in grams, maybe in, a little beaker or another container, and then you will pour them into the bolts. Say this is going to be roughly 60 grams of beads, and that 60 grams of beads spread out over the volume of this mold will give you the density you're looking for. In this case, about 120 kilograms per cubic meter. And controlling that density controls a lot of things. It controls how hard the foam is, how much rebound there is, how much deflection there is, how durable it is, all those things. The density specifically of Blue Core and True Foam is actually very similar, but Carbon did something smart with taking the voids out to reduce the weight and also to add some flex. As you can see, these around here kind of make the sort of middle able to move, and these holes in the middle, they stated, were just to remove more weight, which you need to do. Whereas the Blue Cores is like a solid slab at nearly the same density, and you can feel, if you played with these two, there is a lot less flex, dwell, and pocketing whenever you don't add the kind of flex holes or grooves. And again, the foam may be slightly different. I'm not speaking to their proprietary blends or anything like that, but it is a similar formulation with beaded foam expanding. Now, another thing to talk about is with these beaded foams, specifically EPP, there are different formulations and they're called magnifications, and that's how much one little bead will expand, right? So if you, magnification 5 means the bead will expand to 5 times its original size, that'll be the max expansion. But you can go all the way up to a magnification 60, where one little bead will get 60 times its original size if there's nothing else compressing it, holding it. And that affects the strength and the size that you would use and how many beads you would use for the given volume for the density you want. So this is one way, essentially compression molding a shape. And then you would take this. Now this is a finished core, and you will build the paddle around this. You might use a GSM, which means grams per square meter, a GSM cloth, which is pre-impregnated with epoxy. You lay that on top, and then you'll take your facing layer, layup, which, composites, carbon fiber, fiberglass, put that on. And then again, that goes then now in another press. It's going to apply heat and pressure to activate the epoxy and glue everything together. Then it's finished. There may be other things you want to do. So this is one way. The second way is almost similar to what we'll call traditional thermoforming of paddles with honeycomb, where sort of there isn't any heat or pressure applied until everything is laid into the mold, and then you then heat and pressurize that. And in the past, we've had, this is a piece of a paddle here that is a thermoformed construction, and it has beaded EPP as the central core instead of honeycomb. This that you see on the side is expanding foam wrapped in a carbon tube, and that little carbon tube, you see there's carbon here, is what becomes the edge seam. Now, this is very normal for thermoforming, and the purpose of this, it's been marketed in pickleball that the purpose of edge foam is to add vibration dampening, to add structure to the edges, to add perimeter weighting, right? All those things may be true, but they are actually all kind of positive side effects. That isn't the design intention, right? The purpose for this expanding, we'll call it tube bladder, which is essentially what it is something that you need in thermoforming in general, inside of pickleball, or if you're making a bike frame, or if you're thermoforming a different part, you need when you put things into this negative space of a mold, right? It's just totally hollow in there. And then you have your parts in there and your composites, which in a lot of cases are wet layup. So they're very flexible and they're basically soaked with epoxy. They're pre-impregnated. So they're flexible, they're kind of heavy. You need pressure internally inside of the object in order to push it out into the edges of the mold to make sure the corners form square, to make sure that the composites on the outer edge are pushed flat up against the mold and flat around the edges. So that's the purpose. This bladder, this expanding bladder, in this case, is expanding foam inside of a tube of carbon fiber. But there are other uses where maybe it's a plastic bag that's put in, laid in a bladder, and then filled with air or filled with liquid. And that can expand and push then. And then a lot of times with the plastic bag, you'll put this tube of plastic in there, pressurize the air, that pushes everything out. It bakes, it cooks, and then everything's good. And then at the end, the air comes out of the plastic. You kind of rip out whatever plastic you can, but you just leave the rest in there as waste. But it's fine. It served its purpose. So anyway, that's kind of the point of this expanding edge. So a little bit of an aside there. So now back to the beaded foam and maybe the other way that it's used. Imagine this. I wish I had a full paddle of this, but imagine we have the negative of the mold. So you have a negative of a paddle shape. It's a hollow. And now you are basically getting everything ready. First thing you'll do is you'll take this carbon tube bladder, which sort of looks like tape, and you're going to sort of run it around the edge, around the perimeter, shape the paddle. And you will have in there your facing layup, which is essentially going to be the carbon fiber or fiberglass on the bottom of the paddle there. That's in there. Then the edge is in there, right? These items are essentially wet with epoxy, so they're very flexible. They're usually quite sticky, especially when they get warmer. Lay everything in there. In a normal Gen 2 paddle, then you would lay the honeycomb in there, right? It's cut to shape. Then you would put the layup for the top on top of that. There is peel ply, the cloth in between all these sticky parts and the steel mold. Close the lid of the mold. Then you're going to put it under heat and pressure. This foam is going to expand, push the edges out, and then it pushes into the honeycomb a little bit, holds the honeycomb tight, keeps it from rattling. We all know that. So the process is essentially identical with this EPP beaded foam, except that lay the facing layup on the bottom in there, lay the carbon edge seam, the expanding bladder. Then you will have your, little container of beads. And of course you will calculate the grams of beads that you need for the density that you want and the magnification of these beads depending. So this is the sort of the product research that you did beforehand. You will then dump those into the void, kind of spread them around evenly, lay the face on there, close the mold, and then now, whenever it's baking, both this is expanding and pushing the edges out, but also the EPP beads in the middle are expanding and taking up all that empty space, which is where honeycomb would normally go. And, when this happens, it's pretty good because it pushes everything tight. It's very good for that. It pushes both of the faces against the mold, which is nice. And the faces themselves, which are, pre-preg with epoxy, as those heat up, the epoxy itself starts turning to essentially really sticky glue at a certain point, and then at a certain temperature, it cures, right? So as these beads expand and press into that, composite face, they're going to stick to all that glue. Everything is sticking to everything. And then it all fuses together, and then it's allowed to cool or sometimes even put in a separate cooling press that has cold metal press, and then brings it back down to temp before it's opened up. And in that process, the epoxy cures, becomes hard, and is like what you feel when it comes out, and it's no longer sticky. That being said, this process actually makes it almost impossible for the paddle to disbond. So we talked previously about foam core durability issues. Core crush is not a concern because you can mash it down. Now, compression fatigue is a real thing where you might make a dent or a divot, but at these densities and the type of things we're doing, it would take so long to do that. I think your paddle would be done before you did that anyway. And then the other, potential danger is disbonding if the face comes unglued from the core. Well, in this construction, that is so incredibly unlikely because of how much it's all fused with the epoxy and the foam itself fusing to it. When I try to dissect these, and now this one's cut, but if you try to peel the face back, it is nearly impossible. You will end up tearing the core apart, pieces of the core will tear off and come off with the face before you can get the face off cleanly. Dustin, Pickleball Medicine, he just dissected some foam paddles recently, one of the J2 NFs, and he ran into this problem. He literally couldn't get it off, had to sand it off. So that's the other way. Yeah. So he had to go get a carbide sander and sand the facing layers off the foam because he couldn't peel it back. So that can be an advantage of doing it this thermoformed way, a Gen 2 way, rather than compressing and molding the core first and then building the paddle off that afterwards. So those are sort of the two ways, and we're seeing this thermoforming way much more popular right now. And I think we will continue to see it because it has a lot of advantages and the paddles can play great. The difficulty, honestly, is making these in a way where they stay in the correct weight range that we want, but also will pass PB core. Because the lower the density, the lighter the paddle, the higher the PB core score, the more the power. So you want to raise the density, but then you're like, wait a minute, I can't make a super heavy paddle. So that's where the creativity comes in. And yeah, I'm excited to see sort of the different things in development. I have a few myself that I'm excited to see, and we've already seen some more creative approaches. I've been saying this for a long time about foam. Great material, but it's in its infancy right now. People are like, ooh, this could work. So they just use a solid slab of it. Well, that's the first iteration. It's almost like whenever paddles initially went from wood to honeycomb. People found honeycomb and they're like, ooh, this could work. And they just use a slab of honeycomb and put the faces on. We get a Gen 1 paddle that way. But since then, we've seen iterations and creativity on how to continue to use that material, but add performance through, EVA foam on the edge or just thermoforming or et cetera. So,
et cetera.
It's been a while since I dropped in et cetera. Anyway, woo, that was a long ramble, huh?
Speaking of density, Jesus.
You're pretty dense, aren't you?
So, I mean, Anyway.
Did all that make sense, dude? As
it made great
listener?
sense. I was asleep for half of it, but yeah. No, it all was very... that might be one of the best NERDTOWNs.
Well,
people are going to like that. Yeah.
Y'all in the comments, give us ideas for NERDTOWNs because, dude, it gets hard. I have to repeat some old ones or something because it's honestly hard to come up with something every week that we can deep dive into.
All right. So we've learned, number one, foam is more durable than polypropylene by far. EPP.
Yeah.
Now, do you think it's better? Is this where the industry will go? Will polypropylene die?
I don't think it's going to die anytime soon. I think that, yes, it's better. I won't bury that lead, especially for performance and options and durability. But honeycomb is honestly way easier to work with, probably cheaper also. So it makes sense to keep honeycomb paddles in your lineup, especially as like your mid-grade or your rec options or things like that, where you can make things that are more affordable for people and they're not too worried about the durability or performance because they just want to play pickleball and have something that looks cool.
Yeah.
And it still can perform pretty well, don't get me wrong. But yeah, as we go further into trying to extract maximum, performance potential, which we've kind of seen with honeycomb where we're like, oh, let's make it floating. Let's add EVA. Let's do this. Let's do that. Well, then we start to really accentuate the shortcomings of honeycomb. And then, we start adding too much movement. We have durability issues. So foam is a perfect replacement for that. And I've said this before, and this isn't a mystery. Gearbox famously has been doing this for a long time. So give them their flowers for sure. But I still think that foam in general can be a good like monolithic material, just foam. But the best case scenario is probably foam, which is enhanced with composites, whether that's carbon fiber or fiberglass, so that we get the structural, properties of the composites, because the composites are incredibly strong and very light and very flexible in what you can do with them. And then foam obviously provides a ton of feel, vibration dampening, energy return, all the things that we also want, but we can, make the durability even better by mixing in composites. So I've said that before, but I think that's kind of the ultimate iteration as of now, until somebody comes out with an innovation that was totally unforeseen and we're like, whoa, that took us off guard, which can totally happen. We'll see some sort of composite structure or composite reinforced cores with foam serving its best purpose as an enhancement in feel and power and sweet spot, and not necessarily being completely relied on for the structure.
The Oracle has spoken.
Well,
all right. Anything else you want to add, man?
Nope. We'll see y'all after the tournament. Hopefully wearing some, medals.
Some hardware, baby. I would love to get a dub with you, man. All right.
Yeah.
Well, that's it. This is episode 46 of the Pickleball Pursuit podcast. I'm your host, Lewis. Here with my co-host, Justin from Pickleball, etc. Thank you so much for watching. If you have any topics that you'd like us to cover in future episodes, be sure to drop those in the comment section. Until the next one, we'll see you guys later. Peace.